In this video I'll give an overview of the plot for the Mandalorian Season 1 episodes and then review them. The episode starts in a bar on an Outer Rim world. Some local toughs try and rough up a patron. Mando walks into the bar and disposes of the toughs, only to reveal he's after the patron, because he has a bounty for him. He takes the bounty back to the ship, and en route it is established that Mando doesn't like droids because he passes up a cab piloted by a droid. A space monster attacks a taxi after it departs. Then it latches onto Mando's ship, but Mando gets the monster off the ship and he leaves the planet. The bounty makes small talk, and under the guise of going to the loo, noses around Mando's ship instead. Mando surprises him and puts him into carbon freeze along with the other bounties he has collected. He goes to meet guild leader Greef Karga and gets paid for the 4 bounties he has collected. Mando is offered 4 other bounties, but they don't pay enough, so Greef tells him about the client, who is an Imperial. The client gives Mando a job to collect someone special, and the payment is in Beskar steel. As a down payment he gets 1 bar of Beskar steel, which in the secret Mandalorian base gets made into a piece of armour. Mando travels to the planet where the bounty is, where he then meets Quill, who helps him because Quill wants to remove the mercenaries from the planet. Mando travels to the mercenary base where he is attacked by IG-11. However, after a brief firefight, the two join forces to dispose of the mercenaries. Once this is done, they find Baby Yoda, and IG-11 wants to shoot him, but Mando shoots IG-11 in the head instead, and the episode then ends. After retrieving Baby Yoda, they begin to travel back to the ship, but they are ambushed by bounty hunters, whom Mando dispatches. Mando is slightly wounded in the encounter, and that night, when Mando is repairing his armour, Baby Yoda comes and tries to heal Mando's wound, but Mando keeps putting Baby Yoda back into his cradle. Mando skirmishes with some Jawas who have stripped his ship. Quill agrees to negotiate with the Jawas, who want an egg from a Mudhorn in exchange for the parts. Mando and Baby Yoda go to the Mudhorn's lair. Mando is beaten up by the Mudhorn, but Baby Yoda uses the Force to lift the Mudhorn in the air just in time before it dispatches Mando, and thereby saving Mando's life, who then dispatches the beast, and Baby Yoda overexerts himself in doing this and he goes to sleep. Mando returns with the egg and collects his stuff from the Jawas. He and Quill repair the ship. Mando offers Quill a job, but Quill declines. Mando and Baby Yoda then depart the planet. Mando gives over Baby Yoda, who looks frightened, over to the client. Mando gets all the Beskar steel, which is made into a full set of armour, with the remainder going to the Mandalorian younglings. The Beskar is from Imperial furnaces, which were the spoils of war after the Great Purge, which shattered Mandalore. There is a flashback to Mando's youth. It takes place during the Clone Wars, and his planet is being attacked by the Separatists. Mando gets another bounty, but he feels guilty over handing over Baby Yoda, and he goes to rescue him. Mando blows open the Imperial building and surprises the stormtroopers dispatching them. Mando reaches and collects his Baby Yoda, leaving Dr. Pershing alive. Mando dispatches more stormtroopers during the escape, and they aren't very effective. But now Mando becomes a target for the other bounty hunters in the guild, and there is a standoff when Mando tries to escape. They get into a firefight and Mando is pinned down. The other Mandalorians come to the rescue and take on the bounty hunters, allowing Mando to escape. There is a final confrontation with Greef, who takes a shot in a place where his own Beskar is placed. Mando then escapes. The episode starts on a nice green planet, a farming world. You see villagers collecting their crops, and then you hear a rumbling in the distance. Then the villagers are attacked by marauders and raiders who take their supplies. Mando lands on this planet to hide out. He and Baby Yoda go into a local bar, and he recognises Cara Dune. He follows her outside and they fight to a draw. She is a former rebel shock trooper who dealt with mopping up after the Battle of Endor, dealing with Imperial warlords, then peacekeeping, after which she left the rebel forces. Because she was there on the planet first, she tells Mando to find somewhere else to hide. Mando prepares to leave, and he is approached by 2 villagers, wanting to hire him to protect their village. He agrees and asks for Kara's help. When Mando and Kara get to the village, they are told of the raiders and discover they have an AT-AT, and both he and Kara are reluctant to take it on because of how dangerous it is. The villagers beg them to help. They agree and formulate a plan. Kara and Mando train the villagers to take on the raiders. Kara and Mando go to the raiders' base to provoke them to try and lure them back into the trap, which they actually do successfully. They battle at the village with Mando and Kara and the villagers, and they ultimately win and the AT&T is destroyed. Baby Yoda eats another frog. He ate one in the village when the villagers were explaining things to Mando and Kara. Mando wants to leave Baby Yoda at the village, believing he would be safer there, but a bounty hunter who has tracked them to the planet, and he initially traps Mando, but Kara dispatches the bounty hunter, and Mando realizes that he has to take Baby Yoda with him, and they leave the village. Mando is being pursued by a bounty hunter in a fighter. The image of the targeting of Mando's ship gives a vibe of A New Hope, I think. Mando's ship takes some punishment, but he slows down enough for the pursuing fighter to overtake him, and Mando destroys the fighter, but not before his own ship is badly damaged. Mando goes to Mos Eisley. The pit droids, the same droids from the Phantom Menace, come to the ship, but Mando chases them away. He wants work to pay for the repairs. The mechanic directs him to a local bar. Mando goes into the rather clean bar to look for work, but there is no bounty guild there. He encounters a rather cocky, inexperienced hopeful who wants to get into the guild, but he needs Mando's help in capturing Fennec Shan, and the hopeful will receive the credit for the capture, but Mando would get paid some of the reward. The mechanic at the dock starts repairing Mando's ship, and he looks after Baby Yoda. Mando and the wannabe bounty hunter set off on the hunt. They encounter Tusken Raiders, and Mando negotiates with them so they can pass through their territory. They encounter a dewback with a deceased bounty hunter, but it's a trap because Fennec fires at them from a mountain ridge in the distance, and a bolt actually hits Mando, but he is saved from injury by his Beskar armour. Mando mentions Fennec as a high ground, a reference to Revenge of the Sith. Mando and the young bounty hunter wait until night to get across the plain. Their plan is to use flares to blind Fennec while speeding across the flats. Fennec manages to shoot Mando's speeder. The bounty hunter continues, and he then catches up to Fennec and fights her, but she beats him up. Mando then catches up and he captures Fennec. Mando leaves to get dewbacks as a ride because they need extra transport, and the hopeful doesn't want to leave Mando alone with Fennec. In the meantime, Fennec talks to the new bounty hunter to turn on Mando for the credits and legend reasons, so he shoots her and he leaves to check on what she said. Mando returns to find Fennec shot, and he races back to Mos Eisley. There is a confrontation between the wannabe hunter, who is holding Baby Yoda hostage, and Mando, but Mando then shoots him. Repairs are complete, and Mando takes a credits pouch from the bounty hunter and gives it to the mechanic and leaves. The episode ends with the figure approaching Fennec Shan. Mando pulls into a space station and he meets up with an old partner, a shady man who offers him a job. The job is a prison break on a New Republic prison ship. The people he is going with, a human, a droid, a Twi'lek with whom he has a past, and a Devronian. They are all suspect characters who you wouldn't trust, and it comes as no surprise when they betray Mando later in the episode. They land on the prison ship and they make their way to the command centre. On the way there, they encounter a Mars droid like the one in A New Hope, which the Devronian shoots. There's the tracks of the droids which Mando takes on single-handedly, and he takes out, but the others stand back and do nothing. They get to the command centre where there is a lone rebel trooper whom the Twi'lek dispatches, and after a standoff between Mando, who does not want bloodshed, and the others who don't mind, they then discover the cell that they need to go to. As a side note, there are a couple of droids in this episode that look like Daleks. They then go to the cell where Mando discovers it holds the Twi'lek's brother. He ended up there when Mando left him behind on a previous job. The group then betrays Mando and locks him in the cell. Mando seizes a droid on the outside, which he is able to do through a gap in the door. He breaks off the droid's arm to get the key to open the door, and he escapes. Mando goes to the command centre and locks the prison ship down. The others become separated, and one by one Mando captures them and puts them into a cell. He also takes a tracking device. He reaches his ship where the male Twi'lek is about to steal, and Mando prevents this. Mando is convinced to complete the job, and he leaves with the male Twi'lek. At the base, he drops his cargo off, and once Mando leaves, the base commander orders his guns to fire at Mando. The male Twi'lek notices a device and asks what it is. It's the tracker. Republic X-Wings show up and destroy a ship about to leave the base, which actually has a base leader on it, as he's trying to escape, and the male Twi'lek also perishes. Mando gets a message from Greef Karga. The client has brought in extra Imperial troops, and Greef wants Mando's help to rid the planet of Imperials in return for Mando clearing his name. This does have a bit of a whiff of a trap, as we shall see later in the episode. Mando first reunites with Cara, who is in a fighting match in a bar on the planet in episode 4, and she wins. Mando also hires Krill to look after Baby Yoda. Quill has reprogrammed IG-11 after he was shot in episode 2 into a nurse droid. On the ship, while Mando and Cara are having an arm wrestle, Baby Yoda chokes Cara using the Force. This causes a standoff of sorts because Cara is upset over what has happened, and Quill defends Baby Yoda, and it is revealed that Quill had once worked for the Empire, which Cara doesn't like, but it is further revealed that Quill had been indentured to the Empire, so he had no choice. The gang land on the planet and meet Greef, who has brought his own muscle with him. During the night, they are attacked by a large creature. Greef is wounded and Baby Yoda heals him. In the morning, as the group are heading to where the client is, Greef dispatches his own muscle, revealing that he had planned to turn Mando and Cara in. Things change when Baby Yoda healed him. There is distrust between Greef, Cara and Mando, but they agree to work together to dispatch the client, who Greef states has only 4 guards. The plan is for Mando feigning capture with an empty Baby Yoda cradle to gain entry to where the client is and then pull the trap. Quill and Baby Yoda are to go back to the ship. The trio get to the base and there is quite a garrison, much more than what Greef has said, and Cara brings this up. And Greef, who is a bit worried, states that only 4 guards are with the client. They are escorted to the client, and after a brief conversation with the client, he is called by Moff Gideon, who then has the client and his guards dispatched. Mando calls Quill to hurry to the ship and take off, but they are overheard by scout troopers who race after Quill. They catch up to Quill, and they dispatch him and they take Baby Yoda. The episode starts with 2 very chatty scout troopers soon after capturing Baby Yoda, and they waste quite a bit of time sitting there chatting, trying to get through to Moff Gideon to tell him that they have Baby Yoda, and not being able to tell him because Moff Gideon is unavailable and he's off on his nap, and being told how ruthless Moff Gideon is and how he ordered a trooper's execution for interrupting him, etc, etc, etc. IG-11 then shows up, and not a moment too soon, and dispatches them and rescues Baby Yoda. There is a standoff between Mando's group and Moff Gideon. This takes some time. Moff Gideon has the building surrounded, but he doesn't attack, giving them until a certain time to surrender before attacking. If only he had taken the call from the scout troopers, all this would have been avoided, because he would then be told about Baby Yoda. But, that didn't happen. The plot has to happen. Moff Gideon then leaves for a nap or something. He goes off. The group then discusses Moff Gideon and how terrible and ruthless he is, and that the Mandalorians are not a race but a creed. There is a flashback to the Clone Wars, where Mando's people are wiped out by the Separatists, and he is rescued by the Mandalorians, who adopt him. IG-11 then shows up and guns down several Imperials, and reaches Mando's group. Moff Gideon returns, and this is followed by Mando and company trying to break out of the building, gunning down more stormtroopers. Moff Gideon blows up ammunition near to where Mando is standing, severely wounding him. The group are forced back into the building with a stalemate ensuing. Cara and Greef are having trouble getting the gate into the sewers open to escape, but IG-11 easily does it. Mando urges them to leave him behind because he is severely wounded. A stormtrooper with a flamethrower enters and caused havoc inside the building, but is forced out by Baby Yoda, who uses the Force to get the stormtrooper out. The others escape while IG-11 stays with Mando and tries to take Mando's helmet off. Mando refuses, saying no living thing has seen him without his helmet since he joined the Mandalorians, but as IG-11 is not a living thing, Mando agrees. IG-11 then sprays Mando with Bracta spray, which begins to heal him, and IG-11 gets Mando into the tunnels. In the tunnels they find a pile of Mandalorian helmets, and Mando confronts Greef about this. Greef said he had nothing to do with it. After Mando escaped the fight in episode 1, the Mandalorian and the bounty hunter fight ended shortly after. And the armourer then shows up, explaining it was the Imperials who slaughtered the Mandalorians, although some did escape. The armour reveals Mandalore the Great's war with the Jedi, and gives Mando a mission to return Baby Yoda to the Jedi. Mando is given a jetpack. The group leaves, but the armourer stays behind to continue to salvage the armour from the fallen Mandalorians, and she does take out about 5 stormtroopers when they catch up. Mando's group escapes down a lava river on a barge. Stormtroopers flank each side of the exit of the lava river. IG-11 sacrifices himself to save the group, much to Mando's objection, and is actually a touching moment. The sacrifice of IG-11 destroys the stormtroopers, who are not effective at all in this episode or in other episodes in the season. Moff Gideon attacks the group in his fighter. Mando straps on his jetpack and goes off to fight Moff Gideon. Mando attaches a bomb onto Moff Gideon's fighter, which then explodes, causing his ship to crash. Following this, Greef and Cara agree to stay behind on the planet to rebuild, and Mando then leaves. Shortly after this, Jawas try and pillage Moff Gideon's fighter, but he emerges from the crash fighter with the Darksaber. The series is action-packed, but it's not the most complex plots around, and there are fairly obvious betrayals in it, but overall it gets the job done. The series is a continuous story and mostly gets to the point, each episode being 30 to 40 minutes, apart from the 8th episode, which is about 46 minutes long. It has more of a feeling of a space western than of Star Wars. There are some callbacks to the originals and prequels. You have carbon freeze on Mando's ship in the first episode, a callback to Empire Strikes Back. There is the same eyepiece at the Imperial compound as in Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi, and the Korean monkey lizard shown in the market in the first episode, which is another callback to Return of the Jedi. There is also a reference to the high ground when hunting Fennec Shan, a reference to Revenge of the Sith. The visual effects are decent. The episode, which is the slowest of the episode, is way too long. At the beginning of the episode you have 2 very chatty stormtroopers, and this went on for far too long. And the same can be said for the standoff with Moff Gideon. It is a bit pointless because he has the building surrounded and Mando's group at his mercy, but he then delays the attack. Again, the feeling of get on with it comes to mind. And also, had he taken the call from the scout troopers, it would have rendered this whole standoff pointless, because he would have known that his troopers had Baby Yoda already, and it would also lessen the time with those annoying chatty scout troopers, with all that useless exposition, including how ruthless Moff Gideon is. The stormtroopers aren't that effective and not really a threat in the series at all. In terms of the characters, Mando is a man of few words, and with the mask on there is an element of trying to keep things mysterious, at least at this point anyway. Cara Dune and Baby Yoda are fine. Greef is a fine character. My favourite character of the series is actually IG-11. There's just something about neurotic droids with a flair of destruction. I also like Quill as the next best character. Overall, it's not a complicated story, but it's decent enough to get some enjoyment from it, and as I said, most of the time it gets on with it. I would probably give the series 6.5 out of 10. It's not the best thing ever. It's okay. It's an okay series. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.